necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or its advertisers.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening to the listening public here in the beautiful island of Nevis. Good evening to those on St. Kitts, our sister St. Kitts. Good evening to those who are listening throughout the Caribbean. Good evening to our friends and family in North America, the United States and Canada. Good evening to those in the United Kingdom, those in Taiwan who routinely listen wherever you are. Good evening to you. If you're in Taiwan, good morning to you. Welcome to another edition of On the Mark, Real Talk Across the Narrows. I'm your host, Mark Brantley, and we hope to be here with you from now, 8 o'clock, until 10 p.m. this evening. We continue to be the only show of our kind in the Federation. 2 hours of commercial-free talk radio, prime time talk between 8 and 10. We are not interrupted by commercials because for the past 14 plus years that this show has been on the air here at Vaughan Radio, it has been kindly sponsored by the law firm of Daniel Brantley. We are grateful to them because they're doing their part, we feel, to promote freedom of speech, freedom of expression, which is a cornerstone of our democracy. Thank you very much for joining me. If you're tuned in, of course, it must mean that you're locked onto the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse, VON Radio, the voice of Nevis, www.vonradio.com, 860 on your AM dial, and, of course, we're now, with the help of technology, streaming live online on VON's Facebook page. We're also live on YouTube, and, of course, if you want to listen live radio, on the website. So, we have a packed show tonight, but I start with some good news. Let me celebrate my dear friend Hilly Liebert. Hilly, if you're listening, happy birthday to you. Hilly celebrated her birthday today, and I'm very happy that she is here with us to celebrate and that she's collecting all her flowers whilst she's still alive. Hilly, I love you. Happy birthday to you from all of us here at VON Radio. You have been a very dear friend and a tower of strength for me all these years, and I am very, very happy this evening to wish you a happy birthday from all of us here on the Mark, and we wish you many, many more birthdays and continued blessings. We wish, of course, for all of those who are celebrating, all the best, and equally for those who have some sadness, sickness or otherwise, we also, of course, wish you our condolences, extend you our condolences, and wish you a speedy recovery, wish you some consolation if you're down. We pray and hope that God will be with you and will comfort you. There is a tremendous amount that's happening, and I want to get to it, but let me, since I'm in celebratory mode, I got a message here from a good friend in Bath Village who asked me to mention the fact that, of course, we have quite a few, I believe it is 4 Nevisians, or if not 5, I think 5 Nevisians who are currently in the under-19 West Indies under-19 practice team, and based on what I'm being told here, I'm being told that we have Anderson Amadin has hit 117 not out, and today he made 79. Onaje Amri has bowled 10 overs for 37 runs, 2 wickets, and today he got 10 overs, 31 runs, 2 wickets. So Onaje is doing quite well in the wickets. Jaden Carmichael apparently did 10 overs, 3 wickets for 41 runs, and I am told that he has also now taken 4 wickets for 28 runs in his second game. Young Colin Tuckett has captained one of the teams that won today. I don't have any other statistics, but certainly I would want to extend congratulations to all of these youngsters who are representing Nevis and making us proud, and I'm hopeful, of course, that they will make it into the team that is the under-19 West Indies team. I have also had a notice that King This and That, of course, let me address him correctly, Mr. Keith Scarborough, MBE, has indicated that he'll be releasing his next song sometime next week, next Wednesday. He hopes to do so on the show, and we look forward to hearing that. Of course, the Calypsonians are out in force for Culturama, and there is a Kaiso that I hope we have queued up tonight. We have a Kaiso that we will play with you tonight, and we're going to get to that in a moment. While I am celebrating, as I said, I am just really very proud of all of these youngsters who have gone out there and are making Nevis proud. And of course, I thank them for being good ambassadors for Nevis and going out in a very real way to represent this beautiful island of ours. I thank their coaches, of course, their parents, and all those who have invested so heavily in them, even those who prepare the grounds. I could think of people like my good friend Jabal and others who work really hard to ensure that the cricketers have the necessary framework that they can perform. I thank, of course, my dear brother, colleague, cousin Eric Evelyn, Minister of Sport, and his team, because they've been doing an excellent job. And of course, young Jamir, who's our Director of Sports. All of them have been investing and really giving yeoman service as we try to bring these youngsters along. And it is my hope that we are going to see a breakthrough and that these youngsters will, in the fullness of time, be on the big stage internationally representing Nevis and the West Indies team. So I'm very happy about that and excited. Of course, cricket now has a lot of money in it. It can certainly catapult these youngsters, change their lives and the lives of their families, and we are hopeful that they go all the way to the top. If they remain disciplined and work hard, we think that they will do extremely well. And so congratulations to all of these youngsters who continue to do well. I am in a celebratory mode because today we got fantastic news, ladies and gentlemen. We initiated some diplomatic efforts since March of this year. In fact, I spoke at a forum organized by the Organization of American States, and that forum, I'm trying to get the information quickly to hand, but that forum was organized in March of this year, and at that forum I was one of the featured speakers as Foreign Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, and that forum, which was convened, I will get the date. Let's see, forgive me, I have the article in front of me, I'm trying to find. Yes, the forum was themed, the legal challenges faced by the Caribbean in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic. It was organized by the OS in March of 2021. I was one of the featured speakers, and it came on the heels of the fact that the United States had recently helped Canada to its north and Mexico to its south with vaccines. The U.S. had an excess of vaccines and it helped both of those countries. Well, at that time in March, I raised the possibility with Luis Almagro, the Secretary General of the OAS, and of course the members of the U.S. government that were on that call, the members of the diplomatic corps, that it would be time, I thought, that the United States extended the same courtesy to its third border, the Caribbean. Of course, the United States has Canada in the north, Mexico in the south, and the Caribbean is its third border. And so I extended that appeal then. I think that it was very welcomed. I am told the feedback I got thereafter is that my comments were shared with the White House. That is what I'm here to do, to take the message of diplomacy from St. Kitts and Nevis out. And I say this because, yes, we are the smallest in the Caribbean, but I believe in so many ways we continue to punch well above our weight. And so that was raised then. I was very happy that very day to see that Prime Minister Gaston Brown of Antigua and Barbuda sent out a letter to President Biden in the United States raising the same issue and saying that vaccines should be shared with the third border of the United States. Our own Prime Minister, Dr. Timothy Harris, also thereafter sent a letter, as did the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Prime Minister Keith Rowley, who was then chair of CARICOM. And so we had, if you will, a sort of coming together around, coalescing around this issue of vaccines from the United States. I am very, very happy tonight to announce that just today we got word that the United States has shipped a considerable number of doses of vaccines to the Caribbean. Some 837 doses of vaccines. The Pfizer vaccine have been shipped to the Caribbean. And I am particularly pleased, ladies and gentlemen, that St. Kitts and Nevis is among the first of the Caribbean countries to get. The United States is shipping 837,000 doses, and 6 countries are benefiting initially. Those 6 countries are Trinidad and Tobago, the Bahamas, Antigua and Barbuda, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Kitts and Nevis, and Barbados. And St. Kitts and Nevis being in the first set to benefit, I think, sends a very subtle message. And the message that it sends, in my respectful view, is that our relationship with the United States is strong. That the state of our relationship is good. Now, we would recall that when we took government and when I became foreign minister in 2014, that we met the situation in not so good a position. The United States was quite upset with St. Kitts and Nevis. It would be truthful to say we had fallen out over some issues surrounding allegations involving our citizenship by investment program. As a result, the United States had issued a FinCEN advisory, which still persists to this day. But we did not, when we took office, allow that to deter us. We continue to work, and I believe that today we have a triumph of quiet diplomacy. I would want to congratulate the Honorable Prime Minister Dr. Harris for his efforts. I would want to congratulate the Honorable Akila Byron Nisbet for her efforts as Federal Minister of Health, and her team, of course. I would want to congratulate the Honorable Attorney General for dealing with the legal side of things, because there were many documents that had to be signed. But it was, in the end, a team effort. But what I'm happy about is that way back in March of this year, it was St. Kitts and Nevis that led the charge. And that we were able to get the rest of our region to coalesce around this issue, I believe, speaks volumes to the quality of diplomacy that St. Kitts and Nevis has been engaged in. And I believe that that has been recognized, and that the White House has recognized that, to the extent that St. Kitts and Nevis has not only been allocated Pfizer vaccines, it is among the first in the region to collect. Just so you know, that of the 837 doses, Bahamas is getting 397,000, Trinidad and Tobago is getting some 305,000, Barbados 70,200, St. Vincent and Grenadines 35,100, Antigua and Barbuda 17,550, and St. Kitts and Nevis is getting 11,700 doses of the Pfizer vaccine. I'm advised that the vaccines should arrive here as early as tomorrow, and therefore will be available. Now, some naturally say, well, you have had the AstraZeneca for some time. Why would you now want Pfizer? The short answer is that vaccines, as we all know, are in scarce supply. Demand continues to outstrip supply internationally. That the Pfizer is an excellent vaccine. In fact, it's considered one of the top tier vaccines that are available globally. And of course, they're free. The United States has decided that it will donate some Pfizer vaccines to us. And so we are willing to accept them. We have accepted them, and we expect that they will be available. For those who said they did not wish to use the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, the Pfizer vaccine is now available for them and will be available in the days to come. For those who, of course, could not access the AstraZeneca because we have used up most of the stocks that we had, again, the Pfizer is now there, and that should really do well to help us continue the vaccination effort and the vaccination drive that we have been on. Just in the context of that vaccination drive, let me say to the people of Nevis that we continue our vaccination efforts here on the island. Gingerland Health Center, Wednesday and Friday this week, you can get, I'm sorry, Wednesday is tonight, so that's gone. So let's start with Thursday then. So tomorrow, Thursday, you can get vaccines in Charleston, the Charleston Health Center. And on Friday, you can get Gingerland, Charleston, Combermere, and Cotton Ground. And we start at 8:30 in the morning to administer vaccine. So let me go over that again. If you're out there and you're listening, and you have not yet got your vaccine, you can go tomorrow to the Charleston Health Center from 8:30 a.m. and get vaccinated. And if you prefer to do it on Friday, you can go on Friday at 8:30 a.m. either at the Gingerland Health Center, the Charleston Health Center, the Combermere Health Center, or the Cotton Ground Health Center and get vaccinated. And we still have AstraZeneca available, but as I've indicated, Pfizer doses will also become available. I believe they ought to arrive tomorrow. So we're very grateful. We think that this is a triumph of the diplomacy, and that when I say diplomacy matters, is because it does. And many people participated and cooperated, and I want to extend thanks to them all who made this possible. I think it is a triumph for our region. I want to thank especially the Secretary General of CARICOM, Erwin LaRocque, because he was one who assisted in coordinating the regional effort. And I'm very, very proud that we were able to deliver on this score. I participated myself in various calls and interactions. I would have been in touch, of course, on a regular basis with my dear friend, Ambassador Tagliatella, who is the U.S. Ambassador to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean. And I also participated in conversations with the White House as we sought to do the necessary planning in relation to these vaccines. So we had the Foreign Affairs, we had Ministry of Health, we had the Prime Minister's Office, we had legal. Everybody was working together to ensure that we have arrived at this day, and I think it's a very good day for us. It's a good day for diplomacy, and I'm very proud this evening and humbled that the great United States has seen it fit to partner with us in a very tangible way. I would like to extend my warm appreciation to President Joseph Biden, and his administration for the stance that they've taken to share excess vaccines that they have with the Caribbean region, their third border. And so now we're benefiting from what would have happened back in March with Canada and with Mexico, that now in August of this year, we certainly are benefiting from vaccines, and we're getting Pfizer vaccines. And so we're grateful for that. The other advantage is, of course, Pfizer has been cleared for administration to children, those 12 years old and over. And so it now gives us an additional weapon in our arsenal to fight against COVID-19. And that is that those children who are 12 years and older can now potentially access vaccines from Pfizer. I would anticipate that the program in relation to that will be rolled out by our Ministry of Health, both in St. Kitts and Nevis, in due course. But that, I think, is also very welcomed news, because I know that there are many parents out there who would like to have had their children vaccinated. The statistics in the United States right now are alarming, that more and more children are coming down with COVID-19. More and more children are being hospitalized in the United States, particularly as this Delta variant, this dreaded Delta variant, runs havoc in the unvaccinated community. You will recall that we could not administer the AstraZeneca to children. The AstraZeneca was authorized for use only for those 18 and over. And so as a result, those who are under 18, which I'm advised constitutes nearly 30% of our population. Certainly, I believe somewhere in the order of 25% of our population is under that age, the youth population. And so the consequence of that was that we had a significant percentage of our population that could not be vaccinated. And so naturally we're vulnerable. These are children who are in schools, which are settings with large numbers of people. It means that our teachers, particularly those who are not vaccinated, are vulnerable. They have the potential to contract this disease and take it into the schools where none of the children will be vaccinated. And so our children have been particularly vulnerable to contracting the disease. And we're seeing now in the United States a spike throughout the U.S. of cases of children contracting the disease and being hospitalized. And so the Pfizer vaccine, as opposed to the AstraZeneca which we were using before, Pfizer has been approved for use in those children 12 years and older. It therefore means that with the receipt of Pfizer vaccines, which we hope to have in place by tomorrow, into the country by tomorrow, that we could start vaccinating children who are 12 years and up. And certainly I'm hopeful that parents who see the value in vaccination and see the value in protecting their children will be willing to come forward and to consent to have their children inoculated and protect their children and have the children be protected against COVID-19. And so that is the aim. I am sure you're going to hear a lot more about it. But again, today I think is a great day for diplomacy, a great day for our little country. I am delighted that I had some role to play in this, and of course, as I said, I congratulate all who are here, but also those across the region. Prime Minister Gaston Brown was a champion, Prime Minister Rowley was a champion, and of course our SG at CARICOM, Erwin LaRocque, was a champion. There's so many people who fought really hard to make this a reality. And again, I emphasize the fact that St. Kitts and Nevis is among the first 6 countries in the region to benefit speaks volumes to how we have been able to repair the relationship with the United States of America. I'm very proud of that effort. I led that effort. I am very proud of it, and I believe that all of us, wherever we are, should be proud of the quality of our diplomacy, notwithstanding our size. We have been able to punch well above our weight, and when we speak clearly, major countries are willing to listen, and for that we are truly grateful. So the Pfizer vaccines are here. Some 11,700 doses should be arriving tomorrow, I'm advised, and of course it means that we now have a different vaccine for those who preferred not to take the AstraZeneca but wanted to take the Pfizer, and we also have the option now of children over 12 years old being able to access the Pfizer vaccine. And so I am hopeful that all those parents and all those adults who have gone out and done the right thing and got vaccinated will now, of course, come forward with their children and ensure that their children are also vaccinated. I think that that would be a tremendous boost as we try to get the largest number of people covered by the COVID-19 vaccine. So I think that's excellent news, and I feel really, really good about it, really proud about it, and I'm hopeful that that type of relationship, that type of posture of diplomacy and engagement, that will continue. So good news for us. I think a good day for us, a good work in the vineyard of diplomacy. It has borne some fruit, and for that I am truly happy and truly grateful, and I believe that that is why you elect people. You elect people to go out and to deliver. And I think tonight we have a big win for St. Kitts and Nevis and for our region. And so I am delighted at that result, and I hope that our people are going to take up these vaccines in large numbers and deal with this COVID-19 pandemic in a frontal way as we try our very best to deal with this disease and to confront it and to get to some sense of normalcy back in our country. Now, we have published new SRNO, Statutory Rules and Orders. Our curfew continues to be 11 p.m. to 5 a.m., but I believe that all indications are that if things continue to improve as they've been improving, that is likely to be relaxed even further. We have also now ensured that the quarantine period remains at 3 days. Well, it works out to 4 days because you test on day 4. If you test and you test negative, then you are released from quarantine. That is, of course, for fully vaccinated travelers coming in. If you're not fully vaccinated, then it would mean that you have to do 14 days. And so that's a very important distinction, where the vaccinated are getting a benefit from having done the right thing and becoming vaccinated. They only quarantine for 3 days, a test on day 4, and are released. In addition, we have heard, we have listened, and now what has happened is that we've relaxed the quarantine. So if you are a resident or a national of St. Kitts and Nevis and you're coming in to the country, you're coming home essentially, and you're fully vaccinated, you can now quarantine in your own home for the 3 days, test on day 4, and you do not any longer require security. So you no longer have to pay for security. You recall that people had the option to quarantine in their own home, but they had to hire security. We have now done away with that. So you can now stay in your own home without the need for security. And of course, we're trusting that people will do the right thing and that people will be responsible. Of course, your home will have to be pre-approved by the task force. And so if you are away and intending to come in, intending to quarantine in your own home or in some home that's available to you, you must have that pre-approved, and then you can come in, stay there for your 3 days, test on day 4, and released once you're negative without the need for security. So that, I think, is a further manifestation of our commitment to continue to loosen the restrictions, continue to get us back to a sense of normalcy. So as our people continue to vaccinate, as our numbers continue to rise in terms of vaccination, and now we're well over 70%, I believe the last number I saw we had about 75% of our adult population had received the first dose. So as we continue to encourage our people to go, and incidentally, let me remind you that tomorrow morning, starting at 8:30 a.m., you can have your vaccine at the Charlestown Health Center. And on Friday, starting at 8:30 a.m., you can get your vaccine in Cumberland, Cotton Ground, in Charlestown, or at the Gingerland Health Center. So we continue on the island of Nevis to make the vaccine available to our people for free. And we're urging you to go out and to do the right thing. The Pfizer vaccines arrive tomorrow, and I'm certain that we will have some announcements associated with that, and the health team will take over in terms of the public relations, in terms of the rollout, and letting our people know. And for those of you out there, children 12 years and up, you are now eligible to access the Pfizer vaccine. And of course, it would mean that parents would have to step up and consent to those children being vaccinated. And so the prior position that we couldn't vaccinate those under 18 has now been ameliorated, because Pfizer, that particular vaccine, has been approved for those who are 12 and up. So those who are between 12 and 18 can now access vaccines in St. Kitts and Nevis, and as I said, you will hear more about that. Now, it is just about 26 minutes by the clock here after the hour of 8 o'clock. I'm not going to open the lines yet because there's so much happening. We have a song that was done by my friend and brother, the man, one and only, Earl Panko Hanley, Earl Panko Morton, Ulrich Hanley, Ulrich Morton. He has so many names, but he is a good friend of mine, has been for a very long time. And we know he's a poet, and in recent years he has taken a turn, if you will, and sought to put some of that artistry that he has with lyrics into song. And he has produced something for Culturama this year. He tells me he's not in the competition, but he's produced something for the enjoyment of the people and something with a message. I've heard it, I love it, and he has asked me to play it tonight. And so we have a debut of this song by Panko, which we are going to play here and on the mark tonight for all to hear. It is his contribution to Culturama this year. Of course, we have not been able to have Culturama at the usual time, but the Honorable Eric Evelyn, our hard-working Minister of Culture, has said that over the Independence Weekend in September that we'll have the Kaiso show and a few events. And so we look forward to that. We're hopeful that COVID allows us to have that, because of course this disease is very unpredictable. But here is Panko with a new release, queued up and ready to go. Let's give it a listen.
Tell me what. When will mankind be free again to enjoy planet Earth at will? When will we unite on a national scale? These answers are pending still. COVID-19, oh what a pandemic. Confident people have become frantic. Man's cunning ways are backfiring, and have all of us suffering. It has changed the way we celebrate and scream. It's harder to make money, more time spent at home with family, facing many grave uncertainties. Incoming father, COVID is a monster. We need you in tough times. This is a monster. Incoming father, please can you show us a sign? We need a break. How much can we take? We depend on you. Tell us what to do. COVID is a monster. Intervene, Father. The phone scientists don't mash up with line. said when the virus hit, some went in hiding, paranoid, yeah. Oh, what I see, nothing ever like this. We need miracles, let's all say a prayer. Some lost friends, families and businesses. It is clear, these are trying times. Free vaccines are being given for immunity. They said take a shot to open up the country. Intervene, Father, COVID is a monster. We need you in tough times. This is a monster. Intervene, Father. Please, can you show us a sign? We need a break. How much can we take? We depend on you. Tell us what to do. COVID is a monster. Intervene, Father. The phone scientists don't mash up with lime. Normal, I can keep coming back. Let's get used to this.
Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. There you have it. There you have it. There you have it. That was the man Panko, Intervene Father. Brilliant message, brilliant arrangement, brilliant music. Panko, I hope you're listening, brother. I think you have a monster jam. As Weber would say, this is a monster jam. I hope people like it. It is, artistry and Kaiso at its best. Just somebody who decided, listen, I'm going to do something for the people, for Culturama. No competition song, just adding to the flavor of what's available. And, of course, something that's very topical. Interview Father. We do need the intervention of Jehovah God in all that we do. But to fight this COVID pandemic, let me tell you, it is a difficult time to lead. It's a difficult time to lead during this type of era of this pandemic. And so, certainly, Panko, we are grateful for that contribution. And I'm pretty sure that people are going to be playing this song over and over because it's catchy, it's timely, and it has so much to offer. And so, thank you very much for that contribution. And you heard it here on The Mark first, a big tune from the man Panko for Culturama, just really to add to the flavor for Culturama 2021. We're not having it at the usual time, but we hope to have it sometime in September, we're told. I neglected at the top of the show, and I trust and hope that he will forgive me, to extend congratulations to Pastor Eric Maynard. I attended his church on Sunday evening. He had a marvelous service there for 50 years, celebrating 50 years in the ministry. And along that journey, he has been able to build the Shiloh Baptist Church into a vibrant community, a vibrant church which gives so much back. He has been able to introduce things like the Non-National Day of Prayer. He has been able to really impact a lot of people's lives in a very positive way. And every step of the way, he has, of course, had his beautiful wife with him. They say, it used to be said that behind every successful man is a successful woman. Nowadays, I think everybody understands that beside every successful man is a successful woman. And some may argue that in front of every successful man is a successful woman. But certainly, his wife has been with him every step of the way. They have 4 beautiful children, all of whom are contributing members of the society. He was able to raise up his son Wayne to take over in terms of the ministry, and he has really done exceptionally well for his family, for the community. And one thing I admired about Pastor Maynard, I was allowed to say a few words there on Sunday, is that he has never shied away from issues that were controversial. Some people say the church must keep out of this and the church shouldn't have a view on that. I don't subscribe to that, because the church ultimately is about people. The church is about bringing people to God. And along that journey, wherever people are affected, the church should have a view. I'm not suggesting that the church goes out on the rostrum and engage in the raw politics that we see sometimes, but certainly the church should have a view that is principled and that comes from the Bible. And throughout the Bible, we have accounts of persons being used by God, men of God, prophets being used to inform and to influence and to impact the times and the people. I can never forget from my Sunday school classes taught to me by Pastor Kelly that, of course, Moses was a chosen messenger to go and speak to the might of Pharaoh. And so God has always used men and women of the cloth, men and women who are religious leaders, to speak on his behalf to politicians. And indeed, in the Bible, we have examples of men and women who serve God. King David is a good example. And he was clearly the king. So he was the political leader, and he was also the spiritual leader. And so I find that Pastor Eric Maynard has really been in that mode. Never shied away. Whenever he has seen wrong, whether it's CCMNRP or who, he has been able to stand up and speak out. And I believe that sets him apart from many others who sometimes whisper and sometimes are fearful. In fact, one of the tributes, somebody said he was always willing to say things that others were thinking but afraid to say. And so, Pastor Maynard, if you're listening, I did say a few words on Sunday, but let me now, again, on my own behalf, on behalf of my wife who accompanied me, on behalf of our cabinet, most of our members were there, we would want to wish you again all the best and congratulations. 50 years is a milestone that in anything is remarkable. And for a young man to have started out, I believe he started when he was but a young man of about 24, to form this church and to now take it to where after 50 years he can have this celebration. And I particularly like the fact that the members gathered, the family gathered, the children gathered, everybody was there, and they did it while he was alive. That to me is important. They did it while he was alive, because so many of us wait until people can't hear us, can't see us, to go to their funeral, to say nice things about them. So we pass them every day, we say nothing. And then at their funeral, we start to cry and we say he was the greatest, he was the best, he was the kindest and most generous. But why not tell them while they're alive, when they can hear it and when they can appreciate it? And so for me, those flowers that he got on Sunday, given to him by his family and his congregation, and for others, invited guests like myself, I think it was remarkable. One of the things that really touched me during that whole ceremony was the fact that he had tributes from across the region. And when I see any division, and in the case of Pastor Maynard, somebody originating from Brick Hill, can get to a point where they've touched so many lives, not just here in Nevis, not just in the village or the island, but across the region. We had tributes from people in the Bahamas and Antigua and the United States. We had tributes from, of course, colleagues in St. Kitts and Anguilla. I was particularly impressed by that, because it tells me that the theme that I have sought to live my life to, and the theme that I would want a lot of other people to take on board, is that we are not limited by the size of our island, by the circumstances of our birth. We're not limited by that. We're limited only by the extent of our ambition and our willingness to work hard. And so here we have a man originating in Brick Hill who has impacted the entire region in a very positive way and built a legacy that he can now pass on to his son, Pastor Wayne. And it is the hope, of course, that that will continue. So again, kudos. I perhaps have said a lot more than I needed to this evening, having already spoken on Sunday. But Pastor, if you're listening, Eric Maynard and his wife, Mrs. Maynard, congratulations. I think very, very well done. We have, to report, 2 active cases of COVID-19 on the island. We only have those 2 cases. Of course, we've only had 22 cases since this pandemic started. We again are grateful to God. We ask our people, particularly our religious leaders, to continue to pray for us. It is a miracle. It is God's work why we only have had 22 cases on the island of Nevis. We look next door to St. Kitts, where they've had well over 500 cases, and we recognize that that could easily have happened here, and I warn that it could still easily happen here if we let our guard down. And so let us not become complacent. Let us thank God, but let us continue to wear our mask in public. Let us continue to sanitize our hands and wash our hands frequently. Let us continue to avoid crowds if we can, and let us continue to go out and get vaccinated. Let us use the non-pharmaceutical and the pharmaceutical measures that are available to us. Let us protect ourselves from this monster of COVID-19. Let me, before I open the phones, send a note of good wishes out to my dear friend Colopi from up the hill, Lizzie, Claire, my brother in New York, and all the children, Gerda, everybody. If you all are listening, we're sending our prayers for Colo that he pulls through. We know that he has had a bout of illness, and we are praying for him that all will be well. We know he's a fighter. He's a strong soldier from Brownhill. And Colo, I don't know if you're listening. If you are, we are sending our prayers for you and wishing you all the very best. Lizzie, if you're listening, we are joining you in prayers for Colopi and trusting and hoping that God will intervene and that all will be well. I would plan to visit very soon, but certainly since I'm on the air tonight, I think everybody in Brownhill and the wider community would want to wish Colo all the very best and the very best of health. Now I'm going to open the lines very shortly, but please allow me a few more minutes just to say that last night I had the privilege of listening to Vaughan Radio, and I realized that one Mr. Samuel Keynes has launched a party, I think called the Moral Restoration Movement, or MRM, if I hope I have that correct. He laid out, of course, why he's here and what he's doing. It is a new party. I think it takes a tremendous level of courage to step out and to form a new party. It takes courage to enter politics, but it takes even more courage to form a new party. I would want to wish Mr. Keynes all the very best in whatever it is that he plans to do. I believe that people who decide that they want to offer themselves, well, they'll be examined, and at the end of the day, we have a very robust and mature democracy here on Nevis. The people will decide. Since I'm in the mood of welcoming people to politics, I gather that in St. John's that my good cousin Dr. Patricia Bartlett has launched a candidacy. I would want to welcome her to politics. I gather she has decided that she will contest for the NRP. Well, that's an interesting choice on her part, given the background and given the circumstances. But I'm sure we'll have more conversation about that. But whatever side she chooses, it's a matter for her, and she's in the race now. And so welcome to Dr. Patricia Bartlett. I gather as well that we have a newcomer in J.D. Keynes, a young lady in Charlestown, again for the NRP. I say welcome to her. I say welcome, of course, to a young man, Rohan Isles, forgive me, who is running in Gingerland, I'm told, again for the NRP. Welcome to him. And I'm told that the new leader of the NRP, Dr. Janice Hodge, that she is to be launched at some point and will become a candidate and leader of the NRP. And so we welcome her as well, and all who are coming into the political arena. They're welcomed. The public at the end of the day will make up its mind as to who it will wish to govern the affairs of Nevis. And of course, we in the CCM are pretty positive that we have performed and continue to perform. We continue to put people first. We continue to have people at the center of all that we do. And we have a record on which we will run. And so we are not now about promises. We have always said that we make commitments and we follow through on those commitments. And so even in our darkest hour, the COVID-19, we have not let the people of Nevis down. We have continued to do the best we can with the little that we have to ensure that the lights stay on, that our people get paid, and that the services from the government have continued. And so it will be for the public to judge when the time comes. All I will say to all of you who have entered in politics, that it is a tough space to be in, that a lot will be said and there will be criticisms. I get criticisms even when I'm asleep. I get criticisms for things I have nothing to do with. Sometimes one were to do something that one thinks is really something positive, and then you find people who start to find every little thing to query and to accuse and to criticize and to get on. That's the nature of democracy. Democracy is sometimes a bit messy, but I would have it no other way. It is ultimately for us to persuade the electorate based on our ideas, based on our appeal, based on our track record, based on our service, based on what we have contributed. It is for us. And while I hear a lot of the chatter, ultimately I think when this CCM party, when this big blue machine decides to engage, I believe people will understand that we come and we mean business. So all who may want to come, I welcome them. There was a song here very famous, so let them come if they want to come. Very famous song. It's Culturama time, all up now to independence in September. So Culturama and Culturama tunes are all a part of it. Let them come if they want to come. Welcome to all who want to come. The reality is that politics ultimately is not a joke. It is not fun and games. It is very serious business. And there will be a contending of ideas in the public square and a contending of ideas for the people's vote and the people's support. And when we're ready in my party, I believe that we will make the case, as we always do, to the people of Nevis, that the Concerned Citizens Movement, founded by Vance Amory and his team, led by Vance Amory for over 3 decades, now led by me, with another team, different team, younger team, nevertheless, same core principles of progress for our island, of opportunity for all. And you know, I'm not going to get into too much politics tonight, because I said I just congratulated all the newcomers. Welcome. Tutmun Samambagai, welcome. But sometimes I hear the critics attacking this government, of which I lead at this point in our history. And they say all kinds of things. But one of the things that they keep saying is about victimization. And I sometimes ponder what that means when it is used by people, particularly people in the NRP. I hear them talking all kinds of things, saying, oh, if they were to get in, that they will make everything available to everybody. Smile. You know why I smile? Because my CCM government has employed people who are known supporters of the Nevis Reformation Party. Matter of fact, we've employed people who have ran for the Nevis Reformation Party. Let me say that again. We have employed people who are known supporters of the NRP. We have employed people who have ran, actually gone out and contested elections for and on behalf of the NRP. And yet they found space, they found work, they found sustenance in the government. We have not picked out in terms of any social programs. Whoever qualifies benefits. We don't ask people which party you support. We've done that. When it comes to contracts being awarded by the government, construction, heavy equipment, trucking, everybody who's on this island have benefited who's in that line of work. We have tried our very best to provide for all. And when we compare that, there was a time in this country where one contractor, for example, I recall, I hope he's listening, and he said that things were so dark with him. He was a supporter of the CCM. When the NRP was in office, things were so dark with him. He approached the area representative and he said, I didn't vote for you, you know that, but I'm struggling. I need some work. And the representative tell him, you could dead hungry for all I care. You hear what I say? The NRP minister and the area representative said to a contractor, you could dead for hungry for all I care. But yet these same people now talk about victimization. I want them to point me to who is being victimized. Because I get cussed left, right and center from CCM people who say too much NRP people are benefit. But when I hear that, I know that there's no victimization, because the Nevis that we've tried to create is a Nevis where we try to benefit the majority of people. We don't always get it right. Nobody does. But we try to benefit the majority of the people of this island, and we try to do the best we can for the majority of the people of this island. And you show me a government anywhere that has gone as far as to employ failed candidates who ran for the opposition. If you want any indication of inclusiveness, if you want any indication of a lack of victimization, it's that. I, Mark Anthony Graham Brantley, son of Irvin and Vicky, I myself have felt the brunt of victimization here. I headed a leading law firm here in the country, Daniel Brantley. Quality lawyers, we went out, we didn't depend on government for anything. And because I was in opposition, I have brought investors to Nevis. You have heard me talk about the people who came, said they were going to do the Amman Resort. Me who bring them. I brought people who came, they were to do a resort down at Pinnis. I brought them. And having brought them, they were then told, you can't do any business with Mr. Brantley if you want any concessions from this government. And so I lost them. But God is good. Because I was able to go to Anguilla and go to Dominica and go to St. Lucia and go to the BVI and go to Grenada and go to Singapore and New York and all parts in the US and the UK to ply my trade and to earn. And so sometimes people close a door, but other doors open, because that is how God works. When I hear people talk about victimization, I wonder if they understand what they're talking about, if they understand what it means. Because my government does not victimize a soul. Not. In fact, some have taken liberties. They go on social media every day and cuss us. Every day. They say the most horrible things. And we have resisted that base instinct to respond in kind, because we understand and appreciate that we are the government of the people. That notwithstanding we were elected on a CCM ticket, we are the government for the island of Nevis, and we must govern as such. And so I'm not going to get into all the nitty-gritty of it, because we can talk victimization as different forms. For example, I couldn't go on NTV. Nobody in CCM could go on NTV when NRP was in office. Now I got a letter the other day, a copy of a letter shared with me by the minister with responsibility for NTV. Letter is like 2 or 3 pages, written by Hensley Daniel, asking for all kinds of things. The only thing they didn't ask for in that letter was to have an office set up at NTV for the NRP. They want prime time. They want NTV staff to tape their shows. They want coverage. They want everything. And then what I found was most interesting about the letter. Hensley said, of course, we are relying on the case of Mark Brantley, because the public would remember that when they refused me access to go on NTV, I took them to court. And the court agreed that I should have access and the opposition should have access. Now, they cite that case and say, in the case of Mark Brantley, the court said we must be able to go on NTV, so we're demanding all of these things. And the NRP has been on. They've been able to access NTV. I could not go on. As a matter of fact, I tell the story all the time of an ad that Rodney Elliott was doing for her restaurant. And Rodney had some people sitting in the restaurant eating. And the ad showed me with a fork going up to my mouth like that, or a spoon, I can't remember which. A nanosecond. But it was clear that I was dining at Rodney's for breakfast. And the minister then said, if that little second showing Mark Brantley's face doesn't come out the ad could not air on NTV. And then these who now come talk about victimization and accusing people. You know, my difficulty with the politics that I'm seeing now is that when I joined CCM, for example, I know that I was joining Van Samri and his team. When you join a team, you take credit for the good that they would have done, and you must take responsibility for the bad that they would have done. You can't join a team and decide, oh, that history of badness has nothing to do with me, but anything good I'm going to take. Because I hear them, I hear them. And the NRP has gone back, because they have to go back to the time of our first national hero, Niger national hero, Sir Simeon Daniel. They must go back there, because they can't find anything recent to talk about. So they go back to Sir Simeon and they say, oh, Sir Simeon brought the sixth form and he brought the Bank of Nevis and he brought Four Seasons, and they extol all the good that Sir Simeon did. And I agree with them. That is why he's a national hero. Sir Simeon was a giant. We've never had since or before a leader like Sir Simeon Daniel. So I don't argue with that. But I'm saying if you're going to take the credit for what Sir Simeon did, then you must also carry the burden of what Joseph Parry did. Because we had an administration from 2006 until 2013 for 5 years and 18 null and void months. Well, you must first come and reckon with that too, you know. You can't just take us back to the 1980s and forget about 2006, which is far more recent. There are a lot of people alive today who are not alive in the time of Sir Simeon when he was in office. So, you have to be able to come to an accounting, a reckoning with the people of Nevis. And you have to explain to the Guyanese why you used to round them up and deport them when they did nothing wrong. You have to explain to the Guyanese why you used to put their name in immigration in the system that they could never come back into the country again. You need to explain why you took off all those names off the voters list in 2011 for people who did nothing wrong. Nevisians, born and bred, working and contributing here, who stood up in that line in Cox and wept because they could not vote in the island of their birth. But you had people flying in from all across the globe, never been here before, who you brought in to vote. You must be able to explain those things. You must be able to explain how you bankrupted Nevis, how you gave all the work to a foreign Jamaican company, and the local truckers and local back operators could not get a bite. You must explain all that. What was the model? That when you give the young men in public works or engineers a road to do up in brown pasture, you say they must go up there and practice, learn how to drive. Because when they come back here from university, they don't know what they're doing. That is what you said of our own people, our young people. That's what you tell them when they come back from university. They don't know what they're doing. So you give them a road up in brown pasture. Let them go up there and practice, learn how to drive. That is the lowest esteem in which our own people were held. Look at the difference now. Any project happening here in Nevis, go over Butlers right now, see who out there building wall, see who doing the road, see who marking out the road, mapping out the road, who is the engineer. Look at the people, local people. Look at the number of fellas now who want a truck, who want a backhoe. We have created an industry because the government of the CCM has said that our people must come first. And they must be central to our development. How you could spend hundreds of millions of dollars and the local man can't get a bite. So when we see at all these things, and I have not even touched the surface yet, we have a party that was the first in the history of Nevis to have been found to have stolen an election. A candidate declared null and void. Election set aside. Well, how are you going to come and talk to us about what happened in the 1980s and completely take no responsibility? I heard one of them on radio say they don't want to hear about that. They're looking forward. Well, how you can look forward when you don't have an appreciation and a reckoning with your past? No. You can't boast about Sir Simeon and not take responsibility for what happened thereafter. You can't do that. So, that is the nature of things. So, I welcome all. Tutmun Samambagay. And we will engage when the time is right to engage. I've overstayed my welcome. It is 2 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock. I'm going to open the phones and take as many calls as I can for the next hour and allow the people now to have their say. The numbers to call are 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. Let's go to the phones and say good evening. You're on the mark.
Good night, Michelle.
Good night to you, my dear.
And how are you tonight?
I am well, thank you. How are you?
Well, I'm giving God thanks.
What do you have for me?
2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 1 and 2. This know also, that in the last days perilous time shall come. For men shall be lovers of their own self, courteous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, and unholy. Good night, culture. Who God bless, no man curse. Thanks to the Concerned Citizens Movement. And it coming from who? QT. Good night.
Thank you very much, QT. It is good to hear you as always. And we're going to stick with the phones and continue to take calls at 869-469-1616 and 1700. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Good evening, Mr. Brantley.
Good evening to you, my dear. How are you?
I'm wonderful.
Yes.
The winners are those who learn to take full responsibility for their actions. The losers are those who blame others for their failures. I repeat, the winners are those who learn to take full responsibility for their actions. The losers are those who blame others for their failures. Have a great evening.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the thought. Always welcomed. And I must commend these two ladies, because one always brings a scripture, the other brings a thought. I've never asked them to do it, and they choose something of that. Whatever is resting on their hearts is what they bring, and I really appreciate it. We have somebody else holding. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to be a part of the show, this is the time. I have talked and talked, and this is your time now to talk. So if you want to be a part, we've been talking about, of course, the fact that vaccines are arriving tomorrow. Pfizer vaccines, a success of our diplomacy. I'm very pleased to have been a part of that. We are talking about the possibility now for children 12 years and over to get vaccinated, because the Pfizer vaccine has been approved for use for children 12 years and over, whereas the AstraZeneca vaccine has not been so approved. And so we now have an additional weapon, if you will, in our arsenal against the fight against COVID-19. So we look forward to that as well. And of course, we're talking about the political happenings on the island, with new parties being formed, new candidates, people coming out of the woodwork and getting involved. And that, I believe, shows that we have a robust and strong democracy here on the island of Nevis. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Hello.
You're on the mark. Go ahead, please.
Yes. Good evening, Dr. Mark Brantley.
Good evening, my brother.
Yeah, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good too, man. You sound like so buzz.
Bowling or batting?
Two.
All right, brother. Let me hear you.
Good night, QT, and everybody in Nevis who are great people. Good night, everybody. Brother Mark, I was wondering if I was making a mistake tonight and take you for the pastor Eric Walters, because you sound like a preacher, and that is so good to see that a leader of a country acknowledge that there is a God, that he can speak like that, like how you did tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy who is sick, I want to wish him well. Don't give up, brother. Don't give up. Because death only comes to you when you give up. Fight it. You're a fighter. Now, brother Mark, I have to represent you every time I hear your name called and you're innocent. They're accusing you of something you're innocent about.
Mm-hmm.
Well, last night, for instance, you say you were listening to an Rebel show.
Yes.
And an individual as usual call in, and your name is like the inverted commas on the left and those on the right. He could never call in on a talk show unless he don't call Mark Brantley. Let Mark Brantley do this. Mark Brantley ain't answer the man, the journalist this, and he ain't this and that. I said, okay. I had to remind him of the leader that he's supporting and backing, with all the wrong things that the leader did. He ain't said about none of them what he did. The leader insulted a journalist from a radio station, asked him one time at his press conference about some money, and he insulted the journalist, tell him, what stupid question you asking me, that is none of your business.
Mm-hmm.
And the journalist sit down because he felt so bad. And in the next press conference, a journalist from the same radio station where the one was insulted confronted the boy leader again, and he asked him about the money, and he started going around the ring and bobbing and weaving, and the leader said, stand up, man, stand up. I see them here, have the facts on paper. And so he stand up, and the journalist hit him a body shot question, knocked the wind out of him, and he had to speak the truth because she had the facts. So when the individual believe he could accuse you as saying this and saying that and you ain't talking truth and all this kind of thing, I will remind him about that. So I don't know if he can call tonight. I tell him call tonight, man. Mr. Mark Shaw gonna be on tonight, Wednesday night. Call and face Mr. Branty because he could answer you. Don't hide. And I know he's listening right now. He's listening, so let me call you and face the facts right now. But anyway, good program. I ain't gonna stay long because I'm gonna let us on a little job and come back.
All right, my brother. Well, you're always welcome.
Yes, right.
Always
Thank
love to have you. You know, I hear this. The truth be told, I'm making a bit of a confession tonight that I do not listen a lot of radio. In fact, I have the opportunity to listen to this show because it is rebroadcast on Von Radio every Thursday at 1 p.m. But I'm so busy that usually I don't listen. So unless somebody gets in touch with me and say, oh, so-and-so was said, you perhaps ought to take a listen. Normally I don't. And so I really don't listen to the radio stations in St. Kitts and the talk show programs in St. Kitts as a rule. And some of the people that I hear constantly calling and are talking about me, I can tell your caller and those who are listening that they don't know nothing about me. I don't know them, they don't know me. They see me perhaps on television, they hear me on the radio. I don't know that any of them has ever had a conversation with me. But it seems that I exist in some people's head, that they think about me quite a bit. And I believe that's a very dangerous thing. You know, I got up someday and somebody sent me something that a married man at that, had posted on social media. And when I looked at the time, I said, but this man married, who I believe should be at home, snuggling up and cuddling up with his wife, was posting about me at somewhere like after 2 in the morning. So to be honest with you, it made me feel a little uncomfortable because I say, if a man going to leave the comfort of his bed, where his wife is, to go on the internet go say something about me, well, that's a little uncomfortable. It's a little uncomfortable. It says to me that there's a kind of almost obsession. And I don't understand because I don't know them. And frankly, in my own experience, a lot of them who are yapping, they don't influence a soul. I don't even believe they could persuade themselves about who to vote for. So it becomes a kind of pastime where the only conclusion that I can come to, caller, is that there are people out there who seek attention. They feel that if they call my name, somehow I'm going to engage with them. But I can't engage with them because 1, I don't know them. 2, I know they don't know me. And 3, for me to engage, I have to see some relevance. So if you are just in the business of talking for talk's sake, and you can't even convince yourself why I must engage with you, it is not me being arrogant or dismissive. It's just me being practical because I can't engage with everybody. So if you're calling and you're talking sense and we could have a sensible conversation, then absolutely I'm going to engage because I recognize people are listening, and through that conversation we enlighten each other. Last week, for example, I came and I spoke about this situation where I was asked a question by a reporter. I responded to the question on the basis of the information I had available to me at the time. As more information became available after my press conference, I came and used this show last week to say to the reporter that I had to apologize because I fell into error in terms of my response because I did not have all the information. But there was no issue of me disrespecting the reporter at all. I simply said to the reporter that there was nothing to the allegations because the document that I had seen raised no such allegations. That is all I said. And after I saw other documents, I came right here because I'm not too big to say, listen, I fell into error. That became a big thing. Oh, I tried to disrespect the reporter. I did say that and the other. And I'm like, what are these people talking about? If I am walking down the road and I see a man run around the corner, and somebody asks me, did you see a man run around the corner? I said, yes, I saw a man run around the corner. Later I found out it wasn't just one man, it was three. I said, well, okay, at the time you asked me, I only had information about one. That's what I saw. It's only when I went down further, somebody said there were another two. What is wrong with that? I don't profess to be omnipotent and omniscient. I don't know it all. In fact, I learn a lot when I come on the show because I'm a good listener. So if I fall into error because I don't have all the information, and then I apologize publicly because I believe in sharing with the public accurate information at all times. What is so troubling about that? That people will see it and take it and try to turn it into some big issue. That's what I don't understand. You know? And some of the trivial nonsense that people engage in. Somebody told me the other day that apparently I'm wearing a particular watch and that became the talk. Look at the watch he's wearing. I bought a car. The car was parked somewhere. They took photos and put it up on the internet. Look at the car he's driving. And I continue to say to people, you know, but people in public life, what you must ask if you're asking anything, are they abusing the public purse to have whatever it is they have? If a man wearing a nice pair of shoes, did he get the money through some abuse of the public purse to get that pair of shoes? And the answer to that is no. That he has his shoes because perhaps he had them long before politics. Perhaps he used his money that he earns to buy that pair of shoes. He didn't thief from nobody. He didn't take no money illicitly or unlawfully out of the treasury. He didn't do no underhanded deal. He's not involved in any corrupt practice. And why you vex with the man that he has a pair of shoes? It starts to sound like something that some of us suffer from, and they call grudge. So it starts to sound from grudge. I use the Navy's word, you know. Grudge is an English word, but you know, here we say you grudge, you to grudge. It starts to sound like that. And I don't understand why there's a need for that. There's no need for that. That doesn't advance us in any way, shape, or form. You're talking about man's shoes. I come out and, you know, caller, it is so funny sometimes because they're so predictable. If you say I wake up tomorrow and I come outside, I say, okay, I have on a pair of blue socks. Let me take a picture of my socks and put it online. I could assure you, some of them who I done block years ago, me no know. They're the first to see whatever I post, even though they're blocked. And they're going to cut and paste and run. I mean, it's like taking candy from a baby. And I really don't see why. Let's focus on the issues and stop being like wind-up dolls. Let's go back to the phones. It's 15:15 the hour. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yes, I must tell you, some of what you're saying is true, for most of it. But the whole of Nevis, as I can see it, is grudge. 90% of Nevis people is grudge, right? And it doesn't matter who people vote for, you're not supposed to victimize anybody.
I agree with you on that.
Okay? You're not supposed to victimize anybody. They're not your concern. As long as, right?
Yes, caller, go ahead.
I said, a lot of what you're saying tonight is the fact. And 90% of division are grudge.
All right, caller. Well, I don't know how you work out the blood. I don't know how you work out the percentage, but I hear you.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, have a good night.
Thank you for your contribution. Let's stick with the phones if there are any other callers. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Mark Brantley?
Yes, you're on the mark. Go ahead.
This is Talk Puppy from St. Kitts.
Talk Puppy?
Yeah.
Yes, Talk Puppy, talk.
Okay, good. Now, I want you to know, in the last 2 years or so, I'm following your political life a lot closer than I did before. But not about your individual life, your political life, the way you move, the way you sound, the way you articulate. And I've learned a lot from you. Now, that particular item that you spoke to the minister before, when I heard it, I felt good, but I didn't know you had more information because I don't follow the news. I don't study social media because I realize our lives have been taken up with social media. So I don't want to know nothing about YouTube and Facebook and all those things. I don't want to learn them. Now, when you spoke to the reporter, I trusted that that's all you knew. But let me tell you, when you really impressed me as a human being is when you were able to return and say that you were sorry and you made a mistake. We don't have too many people around like that. So, Talk Puppy from St. Kitts calling to let you know tonight that you are on the right track from what I'm learning about you when it comes to politics. And if more people follow your pattern, forget personal life and how so many people complaining to me about the vehicles that you own, what you buy for your wife, and so those are irrelevant stuff. Because I learned about you from long time that you like to work, and you always work for what you want. You always work for what you own. That is what I'm learning. So forget them stupid talk. This is what Talk Puppy want to tell you tonight. Try your best to be what you say you are on the radio. Nobody can stop you. Try your best that whatever you are talking on the radio, that is what you are. Because what I realize in politics is this. There are too many people coming into politics. They're only using it for personal gain. They are not in it to truly do what they say they intend to do. And I don't see you as that person, and my perception will steady until I see otherwise, then I'll make another comment. But you did a great justice to politicians and yourself and your family when you return and say that you made a mistake, you only had a certain information. Now that you have more, this is what you have to say. Give somebody else a chance. Talk Puppy saying a pleasant good evening to you, and you're doing a good show.
Okay, thank you, Talk Puppy. I appreciate that. And you know, you always bring some humor and something serious at the same time. But I mean, what else are we to do? If you have information at the time and you respond based on what you have, and then additional information comes thereafter, well, I think it is only right that you stand up and say, listen, I fell into error. I don't see that there is anything wrong with that, or there's any need for that to become a major issue to attack me over. I am human, I fell into error. This is what I had at the time. I answered based on what I had. I later got more, and I realized that my answer was insufficient and inaccurate. And that's all I can do, because if I pride myself on being honest with the public that I serve, then when I fall into error, I must come back publicly. I didn't call anybody privately and say, oh, you know, I'm sorry about that. I said so publicly because the original interview was also public. I don't see, Carl, that there's anything wrong with it. And as I said, I don't know why the attacks have come. There are substantive issues on which you can have a difference of view. But sometimes I wonder what is the objective in all of this. Let's go back to the phones with 20 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good night to you.
Yes, good evening to you.
Not too bad, brother. Now, Mark, I also listened to the program last night. I listened to the candidate in the party. I think he's the leader of the party, and I wish him all the best too. But I hope he's serious, because, you know, I know 2014, 2016, and the party come on the stream, but when the party come on the stream, right, just to attack the opposition alone. They were just attacking the opposition. Never say nothing bad about the government or nothing. And things were happening in the government affecting people. So, I know that those gentlemen was in the party, 2014, 2016. They were serious. They just come to maybe to see if they could get vote from the government side, and to, you tap the government when the election come, but it ain't work. Because they succeed, the party didn't last. Before the election, the party broke up. You understand? And I just say this young man who tried to form a party, and he come in, I just hope he come do the same thing to try to get your votes, and get some of NRP votes, some of CCM votes, and then campaign against CCM alone, and then attack the NRP, because the NRP was in government one at a time, and for some years too. And I think that if they don't come and pop up the NRP, and attack the CCM, well, everybody could see that they're serious. You understand? So I just want the political, you come in as no political party as whatsoever, to be serious, and if you say and say, and if you say and say it. Because after this pandemic, I believe that you doing well to me this, as if that you have 22 cases there. So
far, yes.
The 22 cases, and you did well to me this, because got 500 or something young here, and I believe that we're doing well. I believe that the people have think it more disheartening the people. Yes, I believe that the people may go to the protocol more. I don't know if it's happening as much now. To the COVID, I don't know as much. But I believe that the people have think it are more disbehaving, and the people need more behave, and because even though you say, even on the territory, and you see them guys down here, they talk mass, they drinking, they playing domino, they playing whatever, and they have a mass. The mark, I just want to give somebody to the challenge, I want to big up Judge Up, and maybe send me this there, Colin Archibald, and to Sister Clara, I want to them all the best.
All right, thank you very much for your contribution as always. It's 25 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock, and we continue to take your calls. For those of you just tuning in, my name is Mark Brantley, and this is On The Mark, straight talk across the Narrows, and we're here every Wednesday from 8 to 10. And we're taking your calls now on 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're On The Mark.
Yeah, Mr. Brantley, good night.
Yes, good evening to you, brother.
Yeah, I myself was listening to the program last night. And one of the things that I was disappointed in, and I called in and I spoke about it, and I was even attacked by an eviction caller.
Mm-hmm.
It's a caller calling, and I was asking the new political leader to say, well, maybe apparently some of the things that he did at Four Seasons.
Mm-hmm.
So he was about to ask the caller a question, and the caller refuses to take his question. He, in return, refuses to answer the caller question, which I think that was very bad. The reason why I said it was bad, because if you're accusing other politicians, because all night the new leader was touting he wanted to bring a new political culture on the island of Nevis.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you're accusing the old politicians them of doing this and doing that, why you want to go down the same road when you say you want to change the political culture? That was my disappointment. Because if Mark Brantley or Sean Richards refusing to take to answer a question from somebody, why you are doing the same thing when you say you want to change the political culture? I just don't understand that. And I have to he made the point I said, Mark Brantley is already established, well known. That newcomer is now fighting to win that seat or even to win the government. Another thing I spoke about, and a caller from Nevis, I don't know what point he was trying to make, but from foreign politics in the Caribbean, in English-speaking Caribbean, third and fourth political parties don't stand a chance in general election. If you look at the history, I think the only political party the only third party in the Caribbean, I could be wrong, I stand to be corrected, but I think it was the UWP in Dominica, headed by Mr. then Edison James. I think that was the only third party that ever won a general election by itself. You had other countries like Trinidad and Tobago who form a third alliance, and I call it alliance because one day Carl was saying that he don't believe he think Team Unity is a party. Team Unity is not a party. Team Unity in St. Kitts is not a party. It's an alliance made up of political parties. And it's the same thing happening with the NAR, National Alliance for Reconstruction in Trinidad, which was headed by A.N.R. Robinson. And I think the same thing happened in St. Vincent with Dr. Ras Gonzalez.
Son Mitchell as well. He had head of
right. And, you know, Stanley Stucky John and Vincent Beach and them. Those were alliances. You know, Team Unity is an alliance. It made up of political parties, PLP, CCM, and PAM. So I don't know the scholar in Nevis who's saying that Team Unity is a political party. Team Unity is not a political party. The NAR in Trinidad was not a political party. The one in St. Vincent was not a political party. They were alliances made up of political parties. And I think the only party, the only third party that won alone, it would have been Edison James' party in Dominica. If I am wrong, anybody can call in and correct me on that. So that's my little bit, Mr. Brantley.
Okay. Well, all right. I mean, well, the problem is that anybody can come and offer themselves. That's the nature of our system. The question is, at the end of the day, when voters challenge and when voters ask questions, you have to be able to answer. Some of the questions may not be pleasant. They may mash your corn, as we say here locally. It may be your Achilles heel. But you have to answer. It's as simple as that. And you can't gain people's trust unless people appreciate that you're being forthright with them. It may not be the answer that they like, but you have to tell the truth and you have to be forthright with people. And that's why I had no difficulty coming back to the public when I fell into error based on the information I had. That to me is how you win the trust and the confidence of the public. We're taking your calls. We have anybody else holding? Let's go back to the phones. It is 9:30. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Yeah, on the mark still. I'll come back.
Yes.
Now, Brother Brantley, everybody in the Federation, we're supposed to take up your footprint on the dot and take it home and watch it every day and say thank God for you. Because this Federation, this unity government here, you all made so much trash and garbage in there to be cleaned up. That up to now you can't put on a decent new shirt because you have to put on your working clothes to clean up all the mess what they leave outside. And imagine you is the foreign minister, and from the time you get that position, is no rest for you. You got to take up your food in your hand and walk and eat it. How you got so much work to do to clean up the mess. Look at Big Canada. Big Canada put the yellow tape. He said do not cross no more. November the 22nd, 2014. That is mess you got to clean up. You still got up Gatwick to clean up and other mess. And when people want to talk about you, oh, look what you do, look what you do. You working for your money. Look where you park your car. If you want to park your car on Brimstone Hill, Mount Pelion, park it up there where everybody could see it. Do not be like the Angola man. Angola man come up here, boy, up here, a slippers from Portsy Lloyd for $2. And when they fit him so nice, he said, well, he want them dirty up, he put them back in the box. And he walked barefoot, went up the pier, went on in the little boat. When he got up, a woman said, but mister, your toe bleeding. He said, what happened, you put it up down there now? He said, yeah, but anyway, thank God he ain't my shoes. See you, man. Good. Oh, hold on there. Now, I think you are a pastor, you know, because you got some people call themselves Christian and they live on the radio. And they can listen, people saying wrong things, bad things, about the task force people who are trying to help this country here to survive and get out of this dangerous pandemic. And before they condemn the people they condone in the wrong and abusing we who condemn who trying to mash up the country verbally. And then they say they're a Christian. But they forget what the Bible says. It is better to dwell up in the corner of a housetop than in a big house with a brawling woman. And a bully is not a Christian. Somebody who hates people is not a Christian. You hate the things that they're doing, but you don't hate the people, because the same Creator make you, He make them. And you all you have to do when people do wrong, tell them the wrong. If they want to fix you, that is their business. Have a good night, Brother Brantley.
Okay, thank you very much, brother. I'm very grateful for your call as always. You always bring, I think, something that we can reflect on, think about. And, you know, again, we can't account for everybody and what they do. We just have to respect each other, understand that we will not all agree, but we need not be disagreeable when we do choose to disagree. Let's go back to the phones and take some calls. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Mr. Brantley.
Yes, brother.
Talk Puppy had to call back to remind the Federation of something about you. I want to remind the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis about the earthquake and the hurricane that you caused down here when you went up on the stage that night in Greenland. The reason why I'm saying this is because there are so many people in St. Kitts want me to my program to call you down when I don't know anything about you, what they're talking. And that is bothering me. Now, if I got something to say about you that I got facts on, I will say it. If my mind tell me say it, because I'm not a Christian, but I'm a man of God. But nobody could get me to go on radio and say something about somebody that I don't know about. I have to have facts. And Charles Wilkin taught me that even when you have the facts, Emil Ferdinand taught me that even when you got the facts, you still got to be careful how you put out the facts, because you could still get in trouble, have to defend it. And if the person have enough time and money, they could strain you out. So I've learned a lot over the years. However, I want to remind the people in St. Kitts and Nevis this about you. They must try and remember the hurricane that you caused and the earthquake with no damages at all to the country except good the night at Greenland. You remember?
Yes, that was very much the night when Unity came alive.
Well, I wasn't a part of it then. I was marching with another party, but I stood a distance away. And after I realized what you caused, I couldn't take the hurricane, so I went to him because I didn't want nothing happen to me. I just want to remind all the people in St. Kitts who hate you with a passion, because I am the representative for Nevis down here, you know. If you didn't know, I'm telling you tonight, nobody paying me. But anytime anybody down here believe they could just say what they want about you, and it just go, no, you don't have to come and defend yourself. You got me down here. Talk Puppy, always gonna defend the vision. And I am asking one last thing before I go. One last thing. St. Kitts and Nevis will always get along if you just give Nevis the right share. Talk Puppy giving somebody else a chance.
Okay, my brother. Thank you very much. And, you know, the history is important, because you're right. I have lived long enough to hear some people try to say that I made no contribution to Team Unity. And I reflect that the amount of money I spent from my pocket, the money I used to pay lawyers to fight cases for Team Unity, the very lawyer that Team Unity used, Douglas Mendez, senior counsel, he came here as my lawyer and fought the election petition case for me. Dane Hamilton, QC out of Antigua, he came here and fought as my lawyer. These are the very same lawyers that Team Unity then used and were made available to Team Unity. The Greenlands event, like you say, was one for the ages. It really was, in my view, the event that brought Team Unity to life, because all along people were saying it wasn't real. And I recall all the meetings and the preparations that went into that particular launch. When we announced that Timothy Harris would be the leader, because remember there was a lot of debate even about that. So sometimes when I hear those who are trying to rewrite history, it bothers me, but you know, we're all grown people and you shrug it off and you move on. Because the good thing about technology is that nearly everything we do in public is recorded. And so the tapes are available all over social media, the commentary, what happened on that night and other nights. I mean, that night was an electric atmosphere in St. Kitts. It was my very first time going on a political platform in St. Kitts. And I remember the crowd at Greenlands was the biggest crowd I'd ever seen at a political rally. But there was a meeting that was up Connery, on a place in Connery, a court in Connery. And that meeting was also an important meeting because that meeting occurred on the very day that Dr. Douglas had won the case in the Court of Appeal. And I remember he went down to the Parliament and he wind up himself and he said, "They want motion, I'll give them motion." And he called the election. And there were people in the Team Unity camp, and I'll say so publicly, who were so disheartened, discouraged, and defeated that they wanted to cancel the meeting up in Connery. And I suggested to them, no, this is the time when you must stand up, because you can't have given people hope. And now that the case has turned against us, we lay down our hands. No, this is the time to stand up. And I remember I coined the phrase that boundaries don't vote, people vote. To encourage the supporters of Team Unity and to say to them that regardless of what boundaries were ultimately determined, it is you, the people, who will vote. Boundaries can't vote. It's people. And so the message in that was, let's go out and get the job done. Let's talk to people. Let's persuade people of the righteousness of our cause. My brother, CCM was in full campaign mode in Nevis, you know. And I would go to a CCM meeting in Nevis, speak on the platform, then take a boat and go to St. Kitts to speak on the platform, and then come back. Sometimes I don't get back home until after 2 in the morning. I recall one night after 2 I walked in and my phone at home rang. And I cannot remember the lady's name except that she said to me that she is elderly. She lives at home. She's shut in. She can't walk. But she said she follows closely. And she told me something on the phone. It was quite chilling. She said, "Mr. Brantley, I don't know you, but I love you. Do not go back on the sea at that hour at night, because you don't know what might happen. If you're going to come over, stay over." And that has stuck with me, because it said to me, here was an elderly woman who did not know me, but who loved me enough to stay up and call my home after 2 in the morning to give me that bit of advice. And so when I hear some who I never saw one single day around Team Unity when the battle was fierce, when the country called for people to stand up, I never saw them. But you know, success has many fathers. Success has many fathers, but failure has none. So when the train now rolls in and we get into government in 2015, you see some people just cataflam and they reach on the train. And then people who should know better join with some of the Johnny come latelys and say, "Oh, no study mark and then them no contribute nothing." But I'm happy, caller, that the evidence is there. Not just me, but so many others. Because when I came to St. Kitts, I didn't come on my own, you know. No. Troy Liebert used to accompany me. That same meeting up in Connery, he was on the mic too. People from Nevis used to come over with us We had a little entourage who would travel to encourage each other, all in the cause of our country. So you're right, we ought not to forget the contribution that was made by so many, because it is that contribution that allows us now to have the opportunity for the government that we have. Let's go back to the phones and take some more calls. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Hello, good evening, Mr. Bradley. How are you doing?
You're on the mark, I'm fine, thank you.
Yes, this is Becky.
You have a bit of an echo. Are you talking into the phone or is there... Hello?
Yeah, is this better?
Yeah, that's a little better. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, this is Dr. Mark calling on behalf of MPG Washington. Just calling to highlight our upcoming banquet on September 25th, 2021. It's the same place at the Martin Crosslands in Greenbelt, Maryland. This year we have kind of a unique arrangement where we're honoring specifically Nubians who have served in the U.S. military.
Mm-hmm.
We have 8 honorees this year. 8 honorees are Command Sergeant Major Levi Maynard, Master Sergeant Anthony Pemberton, Lieutenant Colonel Clayton Sutton, Sergeant Denise Ward, Sergeant Walford Pemberton, Sergeant Karen Holiday Wallace, Master Sergeant Spencer Howell, and Sergeant Claudette Selkridge. These are all Nubians or of Nubian parentage. We know many people are concerned about COVID this year, but let me assure you and all of our attendees that this year we'll be following protocol and we'll be taking all precautions, following CDC and State of Maryland protocol. So our intent is to keep our guests safe as we will be keeping ourselves safe. So that's where we are right now.
Well, tell us a little bit, since you're on the line, about the event. The event is going to happen when?
September 25th.
Where will it be held?
Martin's Crosswind. It's the same in Greenbelt, Maryland. Same location as the last 3 or 4 years. By the way, the rooms, we have some rooms blocked off. And if they call the hotel at the direct line 301-982-7000, I think what has happened in past years, people were calling the national line instead of the direct line to that actual location.
So could you give the direct line again?
The direct line to that location is 301-982-7000.
Okay.
And we have blocked rooms available.
And you get a special rate?
Right. Yes.
Okay. And the event, September 26th. Hello?
September 25th.
25th or 26th?
25th, 25.
25. And it starts at what time?
7 p.m. till 1 a.m.
Okay.
7 p.m. Our start at 7 p.m. is usually just a cocktail hour with mingle, and the event really started at 8 p.m.
8 p.m.
The early bird rate for this year is $100, and after September 10th, the rate will be $110, an increase of $10.
Okay. All right, my brother. How are you doing?
I'm doing quite well, and hope you're doing well as well.
Family is good?
Family is doing great.
And how's little PJ?
I left out.
Huh?
PJ is doing great.
PJ is great.
PJ
All
is
right.
great. Yes. Yeah.
All right. Well, give the missus my regards and young PJ as well. Okay.
I sure will, and you do as well. By the way, music this year will be provided by DJ Sprang International.
DJ.
And as you, Sprang International. And one thing, just a note, just so that no one is disappointed when they come. I know that over the years our brunch has been a popular hit, which usually takes place on the Sunday. This year, for obvious reasons, we won't be having that brunch.
Okay.
because it would be too challenging a venture for us this year, given the situation. But in years ahead, we hope to get back to that. But just this year, we don't think it would be a good idea to have it.
Okay. All right, my brother. Well, thank you very much for the call, and keep doing the excellent work that you're doing in NEVDC. I want to congratulate all of you because you all have stuck to it, and Nevis has been the beneficiary. So thank you, and congratulations to all the honorees and awardees this time around.
And thank you for having me. Oh, by the way, one thing I forgot again, because I don't practice this, okay? The keynote speaker will be one of our honorees, Command Sergeant Major Levi Maynard.
Okay.
So
I think you have
I forgot that.
I think you have an excellent keynote speaker, and it's going to be interesting. Now, just one question. I don't know if you know, but you've listed out quite a few Nevisians who are members or were members of the U.S. military. Do you know which branches they served in, or did they serve across the various branches of the military?
For those I know, I personally know about 4 of them who are Army.
Army, okay.
And I'm not up on the lingo with the titles.
Right.
I know the titles are different, but I know Anthony Pemberton was the Air Force.
Air Force, okay.
Yeah, and the rest, Lieutenant Colonel Clayton Sutton, he's Army. Levi Maynard, he's Army. Walford Pemberton, I know he's Army. I cannot vouch for any of the others.
Now tell me something, Sutton, Clayton. I mean, I was in school. He was, I think, a year ahead of me. His name was in the media recently because he was in charge of something in the USVI, wasn't it? The same Clayton?
Yes. Well, he was the commanding officer for the Virgin Islands National Guard. Just after the insurrection in DC here, he had a prominent role here in DC, keeping the peace, and he led the VI contingent in that one.
Okay, brother. Stop.
So
good hearing you, brother.
Of course, we were all proud of him.
Yeah, of course, man. Of course, we're proud. We're proud of all of them. We're proud of all of you. You all have done well for yourselves and for our island, and you continue to fly the flag. And we are exceedingly proud of NEVDC and all the work you're doing. Thank you.
It's our pleasure.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. We have 10 minutes left. We're taking your calls. That was a call, of course, from the Washington, D.C. area, where NEVDC is putting on their annual function on September 25th. A very, very dynamic organization that does a lot to contribute to the island of Nevis and to causes here, and we thank them for their efforts on our behalf. Let's go back to the phones. It is 10 minutes to the hour. Good evening. You're on the mark.
This is what happened up Greenland. He said it couldn't happen with Team Unity. But when he hear about Greenland, he bawl out, Lord of mercy upon me. When he see the crowd, man, he couldn't open him out. He beg and borrow, tell him, Unity them done knock him out. I was over Canary too, and we tell the people them that the fellows them lift you up from the main road, bring you right up to Canary on the platform the night. How great you are, and how great you was, and we were looking for you. You was the what you call the lava that flow out the volcano at the meetings. That was powerful, you are. Let somebody else get a little bit of mark. All the best for the night.
All right, my brother, and sleep well, rest well, and we talk soon again, yeah?
That's right, man. That's right, brother.
God bless, God bless. All right, we're taking your calls. 869-469-1616 and 1700. Those are the numbers to call as we try to get into the final 10 minutes or so of the show. And for those of you who want to be a part of it and make a contribution, certainly you're entitled to do so. We've been talking about many things tonight. Just by way of recap, of course, we are receiving a donation from the United States of some 11,700 doses of Pfizer vaccine. They arrive tomorrow. A triumph of diplomacy for St. Kitts and Nevis and for the region. We are among the six countries in the Caribbean that will benefit first. And I think that is instructive, that among all of us, St. Kitts and Nevis is among the first beneficiaries. This was an effort that certainly we engaged in with the U.S. government, and I'm exceedingly happy that we were able to achieve this. The Pfizer vaccines are going to be in, so for those adults who prefer to get a Pfizer shot, that will be available. I gather the vaccine should arrive tomorrow. And of course, Pfizer has been approved for children 12 and older. And so we are now able to access and get parental consent for children 12 and over to be vaccinated as well. And so many parents are already calling me to say that they would want to have their children vaccinated to ensure that their children are protected, given the fact that in the United States in particular we're seeing alarming numbers of children now coming down with COVID and being hospitalized. And so we're trying to guard against that and to cover as many people as we possibly can. We also, of course, had the launch of a political party here on One Radio last night. Not too many callers have called in relation to that, but certainly I've used the opportunity to extend congratulations to all who are entering the political arena and wish them all the best. We will see how it goes. At the end of the day, as I say, it is a space for serious people, and we're in a serious situation on our island, and I always say that serious times demand serious attention from serious people. And so I don't want people to come to make this as a joke. I don't want it to be a retirement plan for some, or something you do when you don't have nothing else to do. This is serious business, and people need people with the requisite ideas and energy and stick-to-itiveness, people who have come, who have demonstrated through their life's work that they have the capacity and the love of people to proceed in this vein. And so I encourage all who wish to come. Ultimately, of course, the voice of the people is the voice of God. I will tell you, however, that when the big blue machine comes out of the garage, we will see how barley grows. And that is my solemn pledge, that we will see how barley grows when the big blue machine comes out of the garage. Because we have said, as a CCM party, that we want all 5 seats on the island of Nevis to be made available to the Concerned Citizens Movement. That we feel that it is time that the people of St. Thomas's elect someone from the Concerned Citizens Movement. And we intend to work very closely and very hard in every constituency. So we are not going to back down, we're not going to back off. We welcome you if you want to come, but understand that we will work hard, and we will continue to work hard, and we will continue to deliver and to put our people first in all that we do. We're running on our record. We are not trying to run on the good and deny the bad. We are running on our record. We understand that no human leader has ever been perfect. As great as Sim Daniel was, he made mistakes. As great as Van Samry was, he made mistakes. Joseph Parry made mistakes. I will make mistakes. But life is about balance, and at the end of the day, when you're weighed, the question is, have your successes for the country outweighed the errors that you might have made? And you cannot join an organization and seek to get the benefit of the successes, but run away from the failures, or deny the failures, or not confront the failures, and not have a reckoning with the public because those failures impact people. And so we will see how that goes. But if you want to come, then come. So we had a chat about that, and we're certainly looking forward to that engagement as we go. Again, to remind the general public that we continue to administer vaccines here on the island of Nevis. Tomorrow, Thursday, starting at 8:30 a.m. you can get your vaccine at the Charlestown Health Center. And then Friday morning, starting at 8:30, you can get your vaccine at Charlestown, Gingerland, Combermere, and Cotton Ground. So please go out and get your vaccine. The Pfizer vaccine should be available. You'll hear more about that from the Ministries of Health on St. Kitts and on Nevis as we continue to roll out our vaccination program and continue to seek to protect our people. That ultimately is what we're seeking to do, to protect our people from this monster of COVID-19. That's our aim. That's our commitment. In the interim, we continue. The Cabinet tomorrow will do a tour of various major projects that are happening on the island, government projects, and I'm sure the NTV will be there to cover that. We have, I believe, a lot of good things happening on Nevis, notwithstanding the difficulties that we've experienced, and notwithstanding the naysayers and people who every day tell you the sky is falling. But we have worked hard. We have been committed. We've kept the lights on. I will not say that we are prospering, but I don't believe anybody in the world right now, even the richest countries in the world, are prospering. COVID has brought us all to our knees. But we are giving God thanks for the little that we have. And they say little is much when God is in it. And we are giving God thanks for that little, and we are working with what we have. Not looking at our neighbor, not seeking to peep into their bowl or their cup, but working with what we have. And I'm very proud that we've been able thus far, through the grace of God, to have only 22 cases of COVID in Nevis. And put that in context. Look all around us. 22 cases in Nevis thus far. We are prayerful that it remains that way. We are prayerful that the 2 active cases that we have, I checked today, they're stable, in good condition, that they will recover fully. And that we will be able to move on from this very, very difficult period in our history into a new dawn. That proverbial light at the end of the tunnel is now there in front of us. But we must work together to achieve it. Government and opposition, church and state, business, community groups, schools. We must work together to achieve it. We can see the light. Last year at this time we knew not what was going to happen. But we can see the light. We can see that things are turning around. I was so pleased just today to learn that the Four Seasons is once again hiring. They're putting out advertisements, looking to hire people. I had a note here. Let me see if I can find it quickly as we close the show. From the Four Seasons, what did the note say? The note says the Four Seasons is hiring. Vacancies in the following departments: food and beverage, culinary, stewarding, beach and pool, housekeeping, laundry, spa, front office, sports and recreation, security. To apply, they say go online, jobs.fourseasons.com, then search for Nevis and apply for an experience of a lifetime. I see all of those as signs that we are slowly getting to the point where things will get back to normal. We have struggled mightily, we have suffered, but I believe that God has been good to us, and I would hope that we continue to give Him praise and glory and continue to recognize that it is through His grace that we are here, and it is through His grace that we've been able to control this monster of COVID thus far. But let us not take it for granted. Let us go out and get vaccinated. Let us wear a mask. Let us sanitize. Let us maintain social distancing. And let us take no risks. And do not play Russian roulette with our lives. Ladies and gentlemen, that's our show. The band has struck up. It means we have to go. It was my pleasure being here with you tonight. Thank you very much for all of you who called. Thank you for those who listened. Thank you for those who are part of the show. Go out on September 25th. Support the NEBDC event. And thank you, lastly, to the man called Panko for that monster jam that he released here on the Mark tonight. Thank you. Good night, and God bless you.
Views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcast